Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for joining us
Hello,
on
everyone.
today's episode number 4, numero 4. I'm your host or co-host, Neil Prasad. I'm joined by my colleague, Jason Rule.
Hello, everybody.
It is Monday, April the 5th. It's a little after 9:30 p.m. and we are here today to take a closer look at some very pressing and timely topics. For those of you who don't know, we are located in a suburb of Toronto, Canada, and we are approaching our third, or actually we're just in the mix of our third lockdown at present. It is COVID times, and that's putting a lot of strain on small businesses and individuals as a whole, but more specifically on the small business sector. And Jay and I thought, what would be a great topic for us to talk about is successful side hustles, and taking a closer look at how individuals can get started, maybe what some hesitations are for people to get started, and maybe just a few ideas or concepts that people can go to market with and dabble on in order for them to explore during this particular time, but also something that they've had a burning desire on that maybe they want to explore as they continue. They're 6 to 10. It's usually 5 to 9, but I think it's a little bit later depending on what's going on. So with that being said, Apple, Facebook, Instagram, Craigslist, Spanx. You didn't know that. Spanx. The common thread, they were all side hustles. Each one of them, right? Jobs and his cohort was working at Atari when they were fooling around in that little garage of theirs when they started that small company called Apple.
Making computers in their garage. I think it was Steve Wozniak.
There you go.
Wozniak and Jobs. That's an interesting story. Obviously, many books written about Steve Jobs and that whole starting it in the garage in, I don't know if it's Santa Clara or wherever he grew up, and that whole lore that follows the Steve Jobs story. The interesting part about it, again, you mentioned side hustle, is the ability to not only continue to grow the business and continue to stick with it despite all odds, but also to continue to push the envelope, right? And we'll talk about that as we talk about the different side hustle opportunities and ideas that we're going to explore.
Yeah. Even Zuck's, right? I mean, Zuck started this when he was in college.
Yeah, trying to get girls, right? Wasn't it like one of those ploys, to impress a woman, where he was not the most, the best way to do it, rating women, right? That the whole Facebook of rating women's appearances, not the most noble of ways to start a side hustle, but it's one of those things that started innocently enough.
Yeah. So, it's interesting the way people come to sort of fruition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously with Jobs and Wozniak, that was more or less within their area of expertise, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how advanced Zuck's was per se. I mean, obviously he had some great allies in his startup environment with his roommates and things of that nature, in order for them to program and develop the software for what we know as today is Facebook. Even
essentially
Instagram.
social media itself was something that really didn't exist until it was brought to the forefront by them, right? Being a media guy, Neil, you probably
MySpace was there, right? MySpace was there before Facebook.
Oh, of course, MySpace. Hashtag my MySpace account. You know what I mean? Like MySpace and Google or not Google, AOL Messenger. Was it called AOL Messenger? What was it called? AOL.
It was MSN Messenger. It was AOL.
MSN Messenger. Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know what AOL was.
Remember ICQ? Remember ICQ? Remember that? Yeah, I wasn't into that, man. That ICQ was all numeric codes and kind of offshoot of phone numbers and that, or whatever that little sound was that it made. I remember I wasn't an ICQ guy though. I definitely was MSN Messenger. Yeah. I rocked that. And then when it started getting on mobile, oh man, if we're talking social platforms, and maybe this is a separate pod or another conversation, but remember BlackBerry Messenger?
Yeah, that
was life.
Hey,
at one point.
There was people in my circle that didn't get off BlackBerry because of BlackBerry Messenger.
Even
That's
though it was
how that,
available on iOS and Android.
well, yeah, that's how legit it was though, right? Like that's how
Yeah.
connected their, I mean, unfortunate story about BlackBerry, but they
Well, you look
had
at it this
something
way.
and they didn't excel and they didn't they didn't pivot, right?
No, no, and that again is a story of legend, right? The whole consumers don't really want smartphones that are touchscreen. Consumers want keys. They want to be able to use their thumbs to type out messages. Typing on glass is not the same. We can tell as Canadians, right? We can kind of comment and lament on the stories of BlackBerry and how BlackBerry was the device of choice and the security leader and all the other things that they toted back in the day. But bringing it back to social platforms, social media, and just that whole development and rise of social, messaging as it pertains to things that kids and adults and business people use now, that's a whole other rabbit hole that we could go down as it
For
relates
sure.
to the different technologies, the different use cases. Some
Yeah,
stories
let's,
personally, like what's the biggest deal you've ever done on WhatsApp, in terms of dollars and cents transactions. Like there's a bunch of different topics of interest that come to mind when you talk about messaging platforms, et cetera.
I'm just going to make a note, like we'll park that and we can take a closer look at social selling, social media, sort of history, rise and fall, that kind of topic.
Beautiful.
But staying on track here, I mean, obviously, do you know Craigslist got started?
No, I didn't know the story behind Craigslist. What
No,
was this?
in 95, Craig Newmark, he actually sent out an email to his friends
Mhm.
and it was just highlighting interesting events around the Bay Area, right? And that initial email was sent to like 10 to 12 people, but it grew word of mouth, and then in 99, he actually started up a
The
server
classifieds.
and a larger website, right? Quit his day job and as a programmer, and he turned Craigslist into a company. Now it's like what, 700 cities, 70 countries all over the world
Yeah,
from an
yeah.
email, from an initial email to 10 to 12 people.
But if you've ever been on Craigslist lately, it hasn't changed much, right? Like the way it's laid out and its core look and feel is essentially unchanged, or it seems unchanged from when it was originally put in place. Classified looking ads, very regional based, not very graphically pleasing at all. Just really just a list of specific things and items and categories. So they kept it pretty pure.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been on it in years, but there has to be some success to it for keeping it simplistic in their approach,
Mm.
for it to have such a long shelf life, especially with that many users, right?
Yeah, it's like Kijiji evolved from it. It's interesting how that happens sometimes, where you have these OG buy and sell platforms, and you know what, Kijiji is really the only one that I know of, aside from Facebook Marketplace, which is pretty prominent with a lot of distribution and eyes and attention. That's really like there's Let Go. There's a bunch of them, and again, that's maybe
Well,
another
not
conversation.
anymore. Let Go got let go in Canada, right?
Oh,
So,
really? Got shown the door. Get out. It got let out.
yeah.
Um, no, but you see, like this stuff doesn't catch on. Like it doesn't. It's not easily adopted. Sometimes it's not necessarily the best platform, but the easiest to use and the most intuitive that wins the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to do a Betamax VHS overview, right? But people know the story if they know the story. As it relates to sometimes the best technology doesn't necessarily win. It's the easiest to use and the most widely distributed that wins the day.
Yeah. So if you had to start over, if you have to do a side hustle, or maybe you got a couple side hustles in the mix, who knows? Why don't you enlighten us?
Well, no, I don't have any currently, but
You have zero side hustles?
um,
Hold on, I'm done. What? Or you just
well,
you don't have any side hustles that you want to share?
yeah, well, I do a little bit of IPTV stuff, but I'm not primarily involved in that, and I don't know if I can necessarily talk about that here, if you know what I mean. Um, but in terms of like side hustle, like working outside of my core like job and the things that I do, yeah, I've pared it down a bit. We'll talk about a little bit about that in the work life balance, work life integration stuff, but I've pared it back. I was definitely looking at doing something in the real estate sphere, like whether it be investing or whether it be fixing up properties or something to that degree, or getting into something a little bit more interactive where it's either online or it's non doesn't take away too much time. But yeah, like the primary hustle has really eaten up all the side hustles, and the side hustles allowed me a little bit to integrate pieces of it together. You could almost say that the business we run to a less degree has a bunch of side hustles integrated into it.
Right.
Like for example, the core business that we run sells SIM cards and data to across the major networks, but we're also doing hardware. We're also doing implementation. We're also doing mobile device management and security. We're doing secure networks. So it's, I guess the wrong way of saying it's an actual side hustle. It's just more of a business
You're
operating.
increasing the breadth of services offered.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So
not
you're
hustles.
adding pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah, yeah, no, most definitely.
So how do you come up with those pieces to the puzzle? Is it based on customer need?
A lot of
Is it-
times, yeah, it's based on customers giving us an opportunity to work with them on a new initiative or project, and then us just taking it and running with it, saying, you know what, there's a business here, there's financial benefit not only to the customer that we're working with, because obviously it's something they brought to us, but also our business. Like we can take this to 4 other customers that we know and show them the benefits of doing it the way that we're proposing, or that the other customer in their industry using the same products and services is looking to do it. So you really get into a position where you start off with a customer that maybe brought you to the dance, and then from there you look at what opportunities there are outside of that, and then you just start pushing those ideas to other customers who may be interested in the same concepts. Not so much a business model because it's very organic, like you're just switching on the fly and you're moving, you're changing, swimming like the tide. But what it's given is the opportunity to really explore, learn, fail fast.
Yeah.
Like I can I can tell you one of the side hustles that we did have was selling accessories, right? For 4 or 5 months or so, I was buying, let's say, open box, customer return inventory in the accessory space. So, like a case for your S5 or S9, or headphones, cleaned headphones, not ones that are being used for a week. All these other accessories for mobile devices, basically. And then sometimes there'd be some consumer electronics mixed in there. So we were hitting Facebook Marketplace, we're hitting Kijiji, we're hitting all these other places. We even found a good auction site in the US where we were moving this gear and this product. And yeah, it turned into a side hustle. We had a storage locker full of like accessories and products, and we went pretty deep on it. But at the end of the day, it was one of those decisions where, what's your core? Where do you make your revenue? And how much time are you spending for return on revenue? And it was one of those situations that didn't add up. Like we couldn't make money in the play in it to couldn't aggressively or logically attach the time spent to the revenue generated to the cost of buying the equipment and goods, because you're buying stuff in bulk without no value. And because the sellers of it were starting to increase the value of the products that we were purchasing, it started becoming like, okay, instead of buying them for $1,500, now you're buying them for $1,700. Now you're buying them for $2,500. You're buying them for $2,000. So the price of the service kept going up. So there wasn't really an opportunity to monetize.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Side hustles has always been something that's been a part of the Prasad legacy. I think there's always been an opportunity for me to help with clients in some degree or capacity, and I think that has a lot to do with your legacy when you've been known for doing certain things.
Yeah.
Even if you move industries, for example, right? Like I still have clients from my educational sector that are reaching out for other applications, right? So it's always nice on that front. I mean, I remember I had clients that were looking for commercial property at one point, or business lawyers, right? And these are not anything in my realm or area of expertise. Although I have the network in order to make the introductions and to bridge a call or foster an initial meeting or discovery of some sort.
Yeah.
But they say when a client reaches out to you for something that's outside of the core of your business, then you know it's a true client. right? Because then you've already developed and established that relationship in order for you to recommend other individuals and
Yeah.
or services for their business.
That's a good point that I want to jump in on, because I think there's something there as it relates to when do you say no to a customer? And again, this is I'm partially saying this because I have a story to to offer. But the question I'll ask you is, when do you say no to an idea, to a request coming through? Like, what process do you go weighing whether it's something you need to get involved in, or you need to pass to somebody within your network? And then once you do that, how do you make sure that the quality that you're expecting, or the person who've come to you is expecting, is maintained? Like, what's your thought process behind that if you're ever put in that position?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if I haven't done it, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not one of those guys that's going to be able to sort of,
Fake it till you make it type thing?
yeah, I don't, that's not part of my repertoire, man. You know, if I
Mm.
can't speak in front of 1,000 people about a specific topic, I'm not even going to bother entertaining it, nor am I going to pretend to know or mislead the client, because at the end of the
Interesting.
day, it's
Mm.
not my money that's
Yeah.
doing that, right? And anytime I'm working with a client to ensure that they're getting the best value or the best solution, I always
Mhm.
put myself in their shoes to be like, okay, if this was my investment, how would I want this to be orchestrated, right? So
Gotcha.
I tell them from the outset, right? I'll either bring a vetted partner into the mix, being 100% transparent. No one wants to be lied to, right? Like, how do you build relationships off lies? It just doesn't happen.
Well,
So
exactly.
uh,
Counterintuitive, actually.
yeah, for me, I look at it in the sense that if I mean, and it's not to say that I'm fearful of not going down a specific journey or road with a client. If they know from the beginning that this is uncharted territories and we're going to figure this out together, and they're open to that, perfect. That's a great way to find a solution, right? Because
Yeah.
they're open to
Yeah.
A/B testing. You're not sure what the expectations are because,
Mhm.
and they're probably going to be getting it at a different price point because they know you're not a quote unquote subject matter expert in that particular realm, right? Um,
Yeah. Trust is a big one there. I think you, in your answer there, I think that was one of the things that you commented on, is that having the customer trust that if you're both on this journey together, you both have skin in the game. Well, maybe not even both have skin in the game. They have more skin in the game, but the skin that you're providing, or the input you're providing, is your expertise, your openness, and the ability to, it's almost like the, you know, the, you know, 10% more than they know. So then by default, you're an expert. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that comes into play sometimes, depending on what it is, with a customer colleague, especially from a former life. So say, for example, you worked with a customer and you provided all of their, again, I'll use something I know, mobile phones. Like, you're their mobile phone guy. You got them all their cell phones, all their data sticks, all their cell phone stuff. And then one day they come to you and say, hey, you know what? I need help with two-way radios. It's like, well, I don't know anything about two-way radios, but I'm one step closer to knowing about two-way radios than you. So let me help out. I think the point that I want to make here, and the thing that I'm always careful with in these situations, is the money part, right? Because if the client is expecting me, and again, I do this terribly, so I'm gonna, be completely transparent on it. If the client's saying, I need your help with this, I know about 5 out of 10, you're probably a 7 out of 10 in the realm of knowledge. So I need your extra 2% to help me get over the hump to get this done. So I sometimes will provide the guidance and the overview without anything, with no strings attached, just as a favor to that individual. Um, where you need to be careful, and where I should be more careful as an individual, is the fact that it's time for money. So as soon as I make the extra phone call, do the extra connection, I'm spending time to help that person get their extra 2%. The problem, though, is how do you ask them to pay for that time? It's an awkward conversation. I don't know if that's been something you've bridged before, and you said, hey, you know what, this is going to be 16 hours of my time. So, normally my rate is 120, 150 bucks an hour, but here's what I'll do for you. Like, does that get awkward though? Like, give me a lens on, like, the Neil Prasad perspective on that. Or
it
have
does,
you done that before?
it's a really good question. I mean,
Mm.
I think we've both had experience with that recently to some degree. And but more specifically, I think you have to set the precedent early, right? Like if someone's coming to you
Okay.
for free information, it can be a great point. Okay, so a couple of years back, I was I set out on this particular journey
Hmm.
to put money to the wayside. Okay, I'm working, no problem. I'm getting paid. Deals are coming in. Business is great. Things are moving at a rapid pace. And I said to myself on year two of this journey that I would set out a goal to help 1,000 businesses for that particular year. Help, sure. Take your justification or your interpretation of help. Right? Is that free advice? Is that consulting? Is that you know is that volunteering on a board? Is that getting involved in an initiative? Is that aiding youth? Is that helping on, what, you name it, whatever the help was,
The
help.
word help, like, yeah, whatever you define it as, basically.
For me personally, I'm a firm believer in karma, right? So what you put out is what you receive. And eventually, if somebody's coming to you for information and they see you as a valuable resource, but in your mind, you're like, this person is just pumping me for information. it, it's there's Google. Like, I mean, it's the number one resource that's out there and
Yeah.
available to everybody in the palm of their hands or
Yeah.
a keystroke away in fingertips, right? So,
Yeah.
for them to come to you should position yourself as an expert to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Now, whether that floats your boat as far as being an influencer in their mind because they're looking to validate something, or
Hmm.
they're seeking inside information or perhaps another opinion. But if you're on the other end of the coin or the other side of the table and you're like, well, you know what? Like, this is what I do for a living. I should be getting paid. Then you should be setting that bar or setting those expectations from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Like my first call, then, if that was the continuous habit, would be like, is this a business call, or is this a hey, can we chat? I got some things that I want to bounce off you kind of call. If it's the latter and it's your 9 to 5 or your primary hours, I would just quickly just move that conversation to the wayside and be like, listen, I'm on the clock right now. I got something, certain things. I know you block time. Like, we're both a big proponent of blocking time in order to execute on
Yep.
certain initiatives.
Yep.
But if it's during those hours, I'd be like, listen, I got to call you back after, or XYZ. Right? If this is still a burning topic,
It's
let's
tough,
chat then.
man. It's easier said than done, and I know you're like me, where you believe in karma and you believe in gratitude. If you put it out there in the world for helping people and you need help, chances are you're going to get that help back, right? It's kind of that giving and get. You put it into the universe to hopefully not necessarily receive anything in return, but for the promise that if you do need something, it could maybe fall in your lap. But separating yourself from that business, because people come to you for referrals, right? Or not referrals, they come to you for expertise and sometimes a referral. The tough part is then once you've made that referral, to follow that tail through. So, you, for example, somebody comes to you, hey, Neil, you did a great job with your basement. I need a guy who do my basement. You're like, oh yeah, I know Terry. Let me get you Terry's number. You get Terry's number. But then do you call Terry and say, hey, Terry, I just gave you a lead, flip me $50? I don't
Bro,
do that. Like, is
what's your relationship with Terry?
he's a guy who maybe did work for me in the past, right?
But
Like, not like a guy that I grew up with, but I'm fishing him business. So
listen, people double dip all the time, man. It all depends on
mm,
the types of relationships that you want to have, right?
yeah,
So if Terry comes back to you and he's building out his fleet, the next thing you know, he needs 10 phones and 10 iPads
mm,
or 10 modules to cover his inventory, and
yeah,
you're monitoring that on a data plan, then Terry's your guy. You're going to refer him business all day long, right?
yeah. I
But
think as business people, and I'm gonna start trying to do this a little bit more, is don't ask, or sorry, ask without expectation of them doing anything. So, for example, same scenario. Hey, Terry, here's my buddy Jim. He needs his basement done, and I'll make sure to take care of him because I'm going to tell Jim that you're a good guy. And then obviously from there, you say, well, you know what, Terry, it's probably hard to find business. So, this is what I do. Like, I'm in the business of doing data and services like that. So if you got anything for me, flip back over to me. I'd appreciate it. So it's almost like
but you
you're
know what? Like,
like,
honestly,
I
bro,
don't know. Like, what do you
I
think of
don't.
that?
if you have to actually stop and think about that for a moment in your
Mm,
circle, you need to find a new Terry, right?
mhm,
Because like if you got to come back to Terry and remind him about what you do and how you do it and who you serve,
mm,
Terry's not your friend, bro. Like Terry's not it there. He's not there, man.
yeah.
And if he's not there, then he needs to be coached to be there, right? But he's looking out for himself, right? I don't know about you, but I try to surround myself with like-minded individuals that are
Mm,
reciprocal in their offer to give, not take, right? So like it's hard. It's hard, and that's why you pay what you pay when you're working with a consultant or subject
yeah.
matter expert, is because the network that they've created is going to be at par or if not better than what they're able to deliver for you personally, right? Now,
Mm, good
not
point.
everyone's committed like created equal. Like we know that not all agencies are created equal, not all services are created equal. You know, salespeople
100%.
at the worst is going to be like by far the worst credibility ever.
Yeah.
And people are gonna, I'm gonna get some backlash from that or whatever. I stand on my own 2 feet. As far as them being credible
Yeah.
and saying certain things or doing certain things just to close a deal. But at the end of the day, if they're not cut from the same cloth, man, they get cut real quick. I have no problem doing that. You know, it's
Yeah.
just there's so many other individuals out there, and you just got to find. And I've done that already. You trim the fat, man. Right?
Yeah, no, I think there's value in that, and there's definitely a lesson to be learned there as it relates to the keeping the circle tight and letting people know what you do. Maybe not even as a prerequisite to you doing anything for them, but I think that whole setting yourself up without an expectation of anything in return is always a good strategy, regardless of what I just said about positioning what you do. Oh, I shouldn't do that. Positioning what you do to the people that you're referring business to. And like you said, if they care to know and they appreciate what you do, truly appreciate what you do, then you don't need to remind them.
Yeah, but
So
I get your point.
I
Don't
got
I'm
it.
not trying to discredit it at all, right? Like, I mean, I've been on the same type of call recently and speaking to another colleague, non-compete in different services, and then they're telling me about a colleague that was looking for somebody to do their website or look manage their social media or look for paid ads, and I'm like, hey man, remember me, the digital marketing guy that kind of knows some things about this? I've been kind of doing it over there for a while. Like, why didn't you even call me? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you know, like, so I'm like, okay, that's on me, because obviously I didn't do a proper job
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
create a personal brand for them to put two and two together, so that I was going to be the one as far as taking up that space in their mind of insert service or product offering here, an
Yeah.
association with my name, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't look at it on them. I'm like, shit, that's my bad. You know, like that's a
I'm
mistake.
not speaking my truth. I'm not speaking my um, individualism and my capabilities on a regular basis. But
Yeah.
again, and we'll get into the work-life integration conversation in a second. But it you sometimes and I get this from my family, whether it's tongue in cheek or out of respect or whatever the case may be, is you could only speak your brand and your truth to a certain degree before people are either rolling their eyes at you or they're getting a little bit more um, not fed up, but they're getting their full dosage of your spin. So I'm super careful about it. Like I don't tell people what I do all the time. I'm not always preaching the preach because the humbleness I think that I try to bring forward is really just I'm a business guy. I'm doing something that I enjoy doing. I try to keep a low profile, but in today's world, and maybe from a digital marketing lens, you can either debunk what I'm trying to say. If people don't know, people aren't going to buy. And if people aren't going to buy, you're not going to be in business for long. And you can only depend on referrals and word of mouth to a certain degree. So I don't know. What's the digital marketing spin on that? Am I speaking gospel or am I speaking garbage? Like what do you think?
Listen, there's companies that are just built on referrals, right? Like
Mm,
word of mouth marketing since the dawn of time is has been the number one seed for organizations to succeed, right? So that's
mm,
never going to die. It's not going anywhere.
mm,
What you should be looking at is exploring the paid, earned, and owned media sources in order
mm.
for you to
Okay.
drive and excel, right? So um, what percentage of your business, if you're investing back into your business, whether it's going to be on, expanding staff, seeking new space, or looking at advertising, right?
Mm.
What percentage is going back into the funnel, right? If you're not doing that, then that's number one. If you're not advertising, right? If you're not advertising, then you can just, it's like, I think it was, I can't even remember the quote now. I don't know if it was Ogilvy, but they were saying like, stopping advertising is like, it's like to save time. Oh, geez, it's dawning on me now.
It's gonna, as soon as you get off the train, it's gonna come right to you, and
Yeah,
you'll be like, oh, it was, yeah, well, this guy said this. Yeah, one of those
it's crazy though,
situations.
right? Like
Yeah.
people want business, but they're like, how do I get in business? And they think just because, so like there's all these free tools that are available to us,
Mm.
right? There's free promotional tools that are available at our disposal anytime you want it. Facebook, Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Twitter, LinkedIn, like all of these are free, bro, right? So
Yeah.
what's the content strategy for you to execute in order for you to grow your business? How many online networking events are you participating with that are new markets that you haven't even been into yet, right? Like we were talking about Clubhouse the other day, right? And being an influencer in that, that's a free resource right there. Like
Yeah.
these tools did not exist for people in business, 20 years back. Yeah, 20, maybe.
20. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
Facebook was there. So, but I'm just saying, like, there's so many opportunities that were not there yesteryear, right?
Yeah.
You just have to figure out the right formula in order for you to execute, in order to catch those eyeballs to deliver what you're selling.
Yeah. No, I think well, let's get into the work life integration, but I wanted to just close off the side hustle conversation by letting folks know that there's tons of resources available. There's even some authors who've written books about the side hustle, the 5 to 9 mentality. And if you just even go look on Google, if you're so interested in getting into side hustles, they list a set of top side hustles you can look at. Things like virtual assistants, things where you're doing drop ship online, where you're basically buying product from a third party source, drop shipping it to an end customer by
Oh,
advertising and doing all that stuff. Like
came
there's
across
so
this guy.
much.
Came across this guy the other day. The guy had
Oh,
a
okay. Okay. Side story. Yeah. Okay.
perfect side hustle. Okay,
Mm.
are you a writer?
Me, no.
Me neither. Right? Here's
Mm.
an idea. This guy's finding, okay, so according to Amazon, people are downloading anywhere between 50 to 100 ebooks a day. 50 to 100 ebooks a day, ranging anywhere on the price point of $3 to $15. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Fiverr, people are animating or illustrating children's books for $15. A full children's book, 1,000 words, right?
Wow.
You
Okay.
do the math, you line up a writer with the illustrator, you do your markup, and you launch your ebook on the same day. No overhead,
No.
there's no paperback, there's
Yeah.
no third party publishing company, there's no royalty fees, right? You're going direct to consumer on a platform that's completely free. All you got to do is set up the actual infrastructure in order for that to be available, and you're starting to make money. Bro, I'm launching it. I'm going to be starting it soon. I got 2 kids of my own. I'm going to write my own stories, right?
Mm.
I'm going to write stories that are related to my background
Mm-hmm.
and where we are here in Canada and how that meshes. I'm sure somebody will read it for sure. Why wouldn't they? I'm an interesting guy.
No, so it's let's mark that here. It's April 5th, and Neil
Oh,
is
you're
talking
going to
about
see the
his
execution of.
execution of side hustle.
There
He
you go.
is going to do ebooks, and he's going to get them digitally animated. You said no,
Illustrated. Yeah.
illustrated. Okay, um, okay, and he's gonna post those to Amazon's distribution.
Want to know a great side hustle that doesn't require any effort but your time?
What's that?
Garage sales. Garage sales are key. You know what the modern day garage sale is?
Kijiji.
Facebook Marketplace
Facebook Marketplace is, I use it, man. I'm a big
and
big user.
Kijiji,
I
right?
like Facebook Marketplace better because you can look at people's profiles a little more closely, whereas on Kijiji, it's who knows who you are.
You looking at people's profiles, Jay?
Well, if I'm selling to them, if I'm buying from them, of course.
Teasing. You
Diligence,
know,
my son.
you
Due
should believe.
diligence.
It's like that old adage saying, right? Don't believe everything you read, bro. It's like don't believe everything you see. You know how many people are commenting as of
Mm,
late because I'm using this post and this geo targeting thing for in the lab, right?
mm,
And I'm sharing that through Instagram. Instagram in the lab could mean anything. I'm just in the lab. Me in the lab means I'm cooking up ideas and I'm working on something that I need to work on. According to Facebook, in the lab is a location in Baltimore. You know how many family members I have? This is family members. They're messaging me and saying, "When did you move to Baltimore?" And my response is a thumbs up because it's like, if I gotta explain this stuff to you and you don't understand, it just takes more time and effort to actually.
I, it's funny you say that. So real talk, so real scenario, Facebook Marketplace. So my son bought some interesting looking Yeezy footwear, let's just say.
Okay.
And he was communicating with a guy on Facebook Marketplace back and forth to sell these shoes. And the guy came up as somebody in the US. And he's like, okay, what's your email? All that information, right? So he sent me an authentic looking email
Right.
with some PayPal logos on it and all the other stuff. But when I clicked on the actual email URL or the email address, it said PayPal verified payments at gmail.com. I was like, done. And then I said to my son, I'm like, hey, this is how,
People
little
get
old
scammed.
ladies and guys who maybe don't read the full caption properly get scammed. Because basically, this guy wants me to ship these shoes to this address
Yeah.
in the US. And then I'm going to get my money because I'm verifying the ship to address after I've dropped them off at the post office. And I'll never see those shoes again.
Yeah.
And it's a lesson to be learned because this guy was like, my son was saying, yeah, he's following up really hard. I looked at his profile and blah, blah, blah. And then I looked at his profile and the dude had a generic name, it was like Roger something. And
Not all right.
his address was somewhere in Arkansas. And his address wasn't even on the PayPal receipt that I got via email. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's a wrap, man. So
Those are good teachings though, Jay. Like I'm
yeah,
just having a chat with another family member earlier on last week about the SSL security and locked when sharing your information and
yeah,
accessing your banking details and open Wi-Fi. People are like, oh, free Wi-Fi. Next thing you know, there's that unlock symbol, and you're all up in your banking thing, and you want to know why people are getting access to your information, right?
yeah, 100%.
But those are valuable teachings. That's a pod in itself right there. Like as
Yeah,
far as
security. Yeah.
security 101, right? But we digress, and I know that we're on a quick little time limit here. I think we're going to park the actual blurred lines,
Yep. Work-life
right? And
integration. Yeah.
let's just go right into the integration piece.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess I'll
Unless
start.
unless you have bandwidth, do you have bandwidth for that, or
Um, well, I think what I want to do is I want to get a little deeper into that one. I think
okay,
what I want to pull through is maybe some examples and really get into um, not necessarily personal experience, because I'm sure you and I have personal experience,
sure,
um, but maybe we want to pull in somebody who we want to talk to about this topic that maybe has some experience either firsthand or who does a good job at it. Because I'm the first to admit that work-life integration is not my strong suit. It's something that I've been working on for a while to make impact with it, right? Because when you have work-life integration, it's not so much doing the integration; it's the impact that you have on the people that you're integrating, right? And when you have a better impact on those folks, you definitely see better results. And I would like to maybe challenge one of our guests to be determined on that topic in itself. And I think we can get some really good examples, not just from us, but from another educated individual that we bring forward that can really speak to the topic. So yeah, let's park
so we're
that.
parking both,
Parking both as in what? What do you mean?
both of the 3 points. We're addressing just the one today.
I think as
I'm
it
cool with it
relates.
either way. If we're gonna close it, then let's close it. I've got a list of about 5 or 10 different resources as far as individuals that can execute on side hustles, and we can close it out there. I'm good.
Yeah, let's do that because I was doing a little bit of research on different resources too. So
Okay.
like
Well,
fire
go
away.
ahead. No, go ahead. You first.
Okay, well, no, my resources were really just around ideas around side hustle, right? There
Sure.
there are some books out there. One called The Side Hustle. The
You know the
author,
author?
I have to. What's that?
You know the author?
I have it right here on my iPad. But the benefit of the book is I kind of read the back cover, and it's really just talking about. Hold on, it's got to see my face here. Close enough now. By Chris Gilbro. So I don't know how to spell that. Gilbo, and it's
Correct.
Baue at the end. Sounds French. So the benefit of that book, from what I read on the back cover, is it's just really inspiring you to take an idea that you have that has some financial possibilities and really working that into something that's going to generate long sustaining income after you quit your full-time job. So interesting side hustle book. Haven't read the book yet, but definitely a very interesting overview and approach to the side hustle concept. So that's just the one. So what resources did you come across in your?
Well, we just looked at the buy and sell sort of technique, right?
Yeah.
So look at Facebook Marketplace, look at Instagram. You know how many groups I'm involved with on Facebook that are just
Mm.
giving away free stuff? I have 3 bikes for my kids right now, and they can't even ride a bike without training wheels. But I just saved myself $300, right? So I'm not reselling them, but I'm just giving you an idea. Those bikes are free, and I was able to collect them locally. And there could be other opportunities if you're not in your local region. Maybe you're looking at other regions and people are
Yeah.
giving away stuff, and you happen to be a handyman or a handy person. I see numerous, furniture that just needs a little bit of touch up as far as finishings are concerned. Like there's a whole series on HDTV
Yeah.
around Garage Bros or something like that,
Yeah.
or
Garage Mod.
Garbage Bros or
Well,
something like
see the thing with retail arbitrage or whatever they call it, where you're buying stuff at X dollars and you're reselling it at Y, and generally that marketplace you're reselling it is on Amazon. If you have this, if you Amazon, that was another thing that was kind of a side hustle with all the accessories we bought. We'd list them on Amazon and we'd send them to Amazon's warehouse here in in the general Toronto area. And we sold a lot of stuff. Like we were one of the we had a bunch of good reviews. We sold, a couple hundred, well, I'd say a couple 100,000, maybe $10,000 or $15,000 worth of equipment on there. And these are cases like $1, $2, $3, et cetera, and cables as well. So we had a pretty good run at that as part of the iLeague X days. And one thing that we wanted to look into is basically watching the Canadian Tire flyers, right? Grabbing the things that are 70% off or 80% off because Canadian Tire gets nutty sometimes, and then listing that stuff on Amazon. So there was opportunities, like for example, I found like a buck hunting knife that was, I think, $17 at Amazon, or sorry, at Canadian Tire, and there was comparables that were going online for $35. So I was doubling my money. But again, because it's a dangerous item, there's a whole bunch of other criteria and stuff you have to abide by, and rules and regulations and different things. You can't just list a handgun or a knife on there and just ship it to a buyer in Canada, right, or even in the US. So I implore anybody who is looking to do a side hustle that involves retail, where you're selling it on formal channels like Amazon, to do your homework. But to your point, Neil, the Facebook Marketplace and doing some of the garage sale war stuff. So buying something that you see of value, adding a little bit of paint on it on Facebook Marketplace, and then reposting that thing almost on the same channel within the same day. Make yourself 50, $60, local pickup, local drop off.
I'm talking free, bro. You know how many things are free?
Yeah.
I honestly, just scroll, you'll see. There's so many things that are on free there. And if you have time and
Time's
you
the
are
currency,
looking
man.
for an opportunity, like nothing better than free. So anyways, that's my one. I think we all know about, it's your time, right? But all of these side hustles are going to be time, but
Time for money.
Uber, Lyft, right? Like
Yeah.
these are side hustles, right? Um,
Effectively, yeah. All the Uber stuff, guys who are doing Uber and skip the dishes and all that stuff, those are not primary streams of revenue for some, but some of it is, right? Some of
yeah,
them, they do skip and Uber. That's all they do.
yeah.
Pandemic has really allowed a lot of people to shift sometimes from their primary job to the side hustle being their primary job. So that's one thing, and I guess I'll close with this and then I'll be quiet, or we'll move on. But one thing I've always maintained when I was working full time and I had a 9 to 5 job and I was corporate guy, suit and tie, all that stuff, is you always got to have something in your back pocket. Now, whether it's another interest, it's another job, it's another opportunity, it's another industry you're interested in, something that you're doing on the side with a buddy or a pal, like, you always got to have something in your back pocket, because if you're a corporate guy and you're watching this pod or just in life, that chair can be pulled from you at any time. Like, no matter how good you are, or how revered you are, or how good you are at your job, things happen. And if you're like left flat-footed and you don't really know how to pivot, how to move, how to, exist in this world, you're going to have problems, right? You're going to maybe have a little bit of a slow ramp to get back on the horse, or you're going to have a harder opportunity to get back into that corporate world because you're so high leveraged into that corporate job. You see it all the time. People have put their whole lives and their whole existence into a job, and then all of a sudden, poof, the job's gone. Recession, business crash. You can, from a salesperson perspective, if you're in sales, all of a sudden they could change markets, and all of a sudden you're out. Anything can happen, man. A pandemic, anything can happen. So you really, from a side hustle perspective, I'll leave our viewers with, or listeners, with the fact that the side hustle keeps you nimble. The side hustle keeps you organic, and it keeps you flexible to be able to pivot when shit goes sideways. That's my close. What do you got, Neil?
No, I think that's great. Like I don't even have anything to add to it, to be honest.
It's that good? It's that good?
Well, I mean,
I'm happy with it.
It's late, and I don't.
It's late. I can't muster up the energy to say anything of substance here. So I'm gonna let you have that, Jason. Oh,
no, it's good. It's. I wouldn't. The only critique is I wouldn't pigeonhole that just for corporate, because regardless, you never know when things are going to change, and there's no such thing as security. I don't care if it's corporate or if it's a small, medium-sized work, right? You have to get, and I think for those people understand that. I think for the most part, I think people get caught up with the hesitations of, what are my friends and family going to think, or how much time is this really going to cost, and is it going to be a benefit for me? What's the likelihood that I'm going to be profitable? Can I do this? I think the imposter syndrome, and self-doubt for sure, as far as like, is this going to be successful? Is this a thing? How are people going to look at me if I do that? Right? Like, I think
what's my family going to think, right?
Those to me are more challenges and obstacles that people might be battling with, I would say, or the mere fact that they'd rather just sit down and binge Netflix and complain, right? And those people are never going to be even entertaining that particular discussion as far as side hustle. There'll be people that want to talk about it, and that's all they do is just talk, right? But for the most part, it's the action, right?
Yep, definitely. Well, we're gonna wrap. And what's the magic words that we always say at the end? Neil, you're very good at this. What do you want people to do?
That's a great point. So I appreciate everyone that's taking the time to listen to us here today. And if you're viewing us, we hope that you brought some value here. If you did find some value, please do like, comment, and subscribe. Smash that like button. It means the great deal to the algorithm for YouTube. So we appreciate that. But also, if you
means a lot to us too.
100%. But if you could also tag somebody in the comments, and if you could let us know what the key takeaways that you found useful on the comments, that would be helpful. Both Jay and I can be reached via email at hustlemode@gmail.com. So feel free to drop us a line there if you have any ideas or constructive criticism. We're always a phone call or email away, and happy to connect. For those of you listening on the podcast, we appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to further conversations. I think we're going to be introducing a few guests down the road for the next couple of weeks that's going to be coming into the fold, and we'll keep you abreast of how things are, or topics that we're going to be sharing as far as area of expertise and various industries that are coming down the pipe. So stay tuned. Hustlemode.